Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another edition of Boxing Bananas under the Fight Bananas banner where we are crazy about fights. I'm Ray, the business Roberts, and I'm joined here by someone who's crazy about fights, crazy about boxing, the professor himself, Mr. John Radford. What's up, brother? How you doing today?
Good. How are you doing, bud?
Doing all right, my man. And
Excellent.
for everyone listening, make sure you subscribe to the Fight Bananas on YouTube and you follow the new IG handle. We have our own IG handle now, Boxing Bananas Official. We're dropping live scorecards, all sorts of stuff, whatever news pops up, all that good stuff. So make sure you follow that and let's get on with the show.
Yes, sir.
So, over the weekend, we had some interesting things happen.
Yep.
Where do you want to start? You want to go main event, the big news, or should we start with the breaking news?
Let's start with the breaking news.
All right. So we have an official fight announcement. Last week on the show, if you were tuning in, you would have saw we broke it here, I think probably before anybody.
I think we did this on, did we do it on Tuesday or did we do it? Yeah, it wasn't Friday. We did it on Tuesday, right?
Yeah, I
Last
think.
week.
I think so. And that is Jake Paul versus Mike Perry is going down in Tampa, Florida. You know what's funny is remember once it got once it started getting leaked out and we got the green light to go ahead and break it on the show, I was saying this is a Florida fight. This has to be in Florida. And I even said Tampa sounds good. I know we did Tampa before. I went to that one, the Amalie Arena. Beautiful arena. It's the hockey arena. So the Jumbotron is huge. Like no matter what seats you have, I mean, you're seeing it all over the place. I hope to have great seats. Tickets go on sale tomorrow. But we don't have to go too crazy into it because I'm sure people want us to dive into the weekend recap. But just what are your thoughts, first impressions? What do you think is going to happen? We'll definitely be covering this more as the fight comes closer.
I am much, much more excited for this fight than I was Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson.
Okay.
And it was, what is Mike Tyson? Is Mike Tyson right now? Mike Tyson's 58. Let the legend live and be the legend, right? Let him do that. This fight is, we always talk about live dog. He's a live man, everything like. This is not an underdog. He's a plus 200 right now underdog. Mike Perry is not an underdog in my eyes. He is the epitome of a fighter. And I'm not talking about boxer. I'm not talking about MMA fighter, bare knuckle fight. He's just the epitome of a fighter. He likes to strike. He obviously has power. He's obviously been in MMA and had massive scraps and wrestled if he needs to. So we know he has cardio. I am excited. So if I'm you, that's a plus 200 right now. I'd kind of jump on it because it might not change. It might not stay plus 200 for a long time once money starts coming in. But I'm very excited for this fight. Amalie Stadium is amazing. The Lightning play there. I was there for UFC cornering Mike Davis before. That was awesome. This event is much better in my eyes than the Mike Tyson Jake Paul event. Not the undercard because Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor are absolutely. I want to see that so badly. But this is a much better fight. This is a much better competitive, I don't even know if he's
more even. It's a more even matchup. And for
is.
those watching, for those listening, drop in the comments. Do you agree with John? Do you think that this is a better fight? Do you still want to see the Mike Tyson fight? What do you guys think? But man, I agree with you. I didn't like the fact that Tyson was going to fight him. I mean, he looks okay on the pads. I think we were all just shocked that at his age he was able to hit the pads like that, but that doesn't mean necessarily that it's going to translate into the ring. I know it's Mike Tyson we're talking about, so it does sound kind of crazy to articulate that.
Yeah.
But man, it's like you look at what happened to an old Evander Holyfield when he fought Vitor Belfort, and he looked like he should have never been in the ring. So I don't want that to happen to Mike Tyson. He's already rode off into the sunset. He doesn't need to circle back.
Yes, agreed, 100%. And you always say, a lot of people, you guys even said it. People can get old overnight, legitimately, literally.
Yeah.
The next day you're old as far as the sport is concerned. He's 58. He hasn't fought since Roy Jones Jr. in an exhibition match
4 years ago.
4 years ago. I'm going to say he got old overnight, bro. I'm going to be respectful, but
I think it was many nights ago,
yeah, yeah,
many moons ago that my man got old. He is old. So it's one of those things where it's not, you know,
yeah.
it's not a controversial statement to say.
No, and right there, Christopher J. You know what I mean? Perry's a
Perry versus
respectable
Paul
opponent.
is a better fight. I, for one, wasn't on board with the Tyson versus Paul fight. Yeah,
I'm with
Chris,
you on that.
I agree. I think we both agree with you on that. If as far as eyeballs go, I get what they're trying to do. That's Jake's brand, is grab as much attention as possible, put it on Netflix, etc. But you know what I mean. It is what it is. Now, as far as Mike Perry goes, I feel like his hands, he has had more time to do the boxing thing, even though bare knuckle boxing is a lot different. He's been focusing more on just doing the boxing training. Um, he's obviously been working in boxing for even in his UFC career. I hate when people are like, oh, they're MMA guys, this and that. Go ahead and do a deep dive into any of your favorite fighters' box recs and tell me you can't find, some part-time MMA guy on there, or they had all their fights exported to Mexico. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like something like that. And they're not top dudes that are the MMA guys. Jake's over here, you get what I'm trying to say.
yeah. Oh yeah. And the biggest thing that I don't think people understand is that now, once Mike Perry's already been just focusing on, like you said, the boxing with the bare knuckle, and it's different. But now he has 1 full month, right? Is it July 20th?
Yeah.
So 1 full month to put this together, to get this together, to study, to get all of that, to get sparring partners. He's in Central Florida. Central Florida has a plethora of boxing athletes to get him prepared for this. You know what I mean? And to emulate styles like a Jake Paul style that is not a very hard style to emulate. Not
Yep.
knocking his style, but it's not a very it's not some dynamic thing that you can't have somebody else that can go ahead.
He's still pretty green in the pro
Yeah,
ranks. You know what
yeah,
I mean? He hasn't developed the layered game yet. You
exactly.
kind of can see like he'll repeat a lot of the same combos a lot. He'll go to the two to the body, three upstairs, stuff like that. He kind of has the same moves. He looks for that overhand. Um, you know, not to say he can't hit you with it, but I feel like
Yeah,
his footwork is getting a little bit better. But his last two fights have only went one round. So who's to say that footwork isn't going to drop round 3, 4, 5, etc. This one is an 8-rounder. We'll see what happens. One thing I will say, and then we'll move on to our recap over for the fights over the weekend, is one of my buddies who was used to train in the same gym as Mike, who is a pro boxer, who was a PBC headliner, etc. So like pro
yeah.
up there guy. He said that whenever he would spar Mike, he would obviously get the better of him, but that this guy was just super strong.
Oh
He
yeah,
was just there was no like if he got a hold of him, he was incredibly strong. So that if he makes it a physical fight, which I feel like is what Mike Perry does, he could
yeah.
have some success in there. So to your point, the guy's a live dog.
Oh yeah.
And then we got Eddie, Team
Perry,
Perry,
Team Perry.
and then Chris. Mike has been really working on his boxing for quite some time. He's been known to be easy to hit, but has been better with both his head and foot movements. I feel like that's true, especially like when you watch that Eddie Alvarez fight that he was getting hit. Like he just was right here and was just getting hit straight to the face. Boom, boom. And then when he fought Alves in the last one, he was really moving his head off the center line. So,
Yep. Yep.
who knows? What we'll see. We'll break it down a little bit more. In the meantime, let's talk about the fights over the weekend. We had Gervonta Davis knocking out Frank Martin in the 8th round. We had a pretty good post-fight show, but just in general, what do you think? What do you think is next for Gervonta? How do you
Um,
rate his performance now that the dust has settled?
the more I look at it, the more it just all fed into the way it fed into the fight week. I feel like he had a whole game plan going into fight week all the way into the fight. Get in his head, walk him down. I mean, he even was saying, he's like, I wasn't trying to throw a lot as much as I was trying to keep pressure on him is, and get him to throw and move and everything like that. I think he just understood, as long as I stay in his face, as long as I'm right here, I'm going to get him frustrated to do something, to wear himself out. Where'd the footwork go? It got him stagnant in corners because he was already starting that in places. Mm-hmm. I just think that he did an unbelievable job setting the whole entire framework of the fight up from the beginning of fight week to the ending of the fight with the way he did with the spectacular knockout. Christopher J over here saying Davis is him. Love the guy. I mean, Davis is him, it seems like. I think there's only 2 fights to go, right? And I'm very pessimistic about the Loma one. Not that I don't want to see it happen at all. I do want to see that happen. I just think Bob Arum doesn't like working with other people. He's already got upset about the one in the UK with the Josh Taylor, Jack Catterall, talking about he doesn't want to send any fighters, this and that.
Freaking out.
Yeah, he was flipping out, right? Right there, he's already in the mood, like, I don't want to put it on. You agree with it? I mean, as much as I love Loma, you would agree that Tank is the A side, right? Tank is the pay-per-view seller.
Tank is the A side in that fight, absolutely.
So for PBC is then going to want to take the majority of it, right? To show it on their platform, like you said before, I think in the last show. So I don't. It
might be them having to say, them sending Loma over to PBC.
Yeah, I just don't see that. When he can make an in-house fight that's going to make him money, that's going to be easier. I just see that being the way Bob Arum will go. I don't see him doing it. I think he just wants to he'll make it easier on himself because, like you said, does he want to? He wants to sell Loma as long as he can for as long as Loma is good until
stretch that dollar out, right?
Stretch that dollar. So if he can make easy money right now, let's go get that done. Let's make that. The next fight Tank should do, please do Isaac Cruz again. Please, Pitbull. Let's do Pitbull one more time.
But which weight class do you do it at? Do you do it at 135 for Tank's title?
I think you said it last show. Or was it one of the other guys? It might have been you.
No, I said it last show.
So I'm going to let you say it. Say what you said again because I agree exactly with what you said.
My thought was Isaac Cruz, I don't think is like a real 140-pound fighter.
I agree.
Right? It looked like he beefed up a lot to get in there.
Yep.
And I think, he obviously has the power that can translate over weight classes like that. And then when you fight a guy like Rolly, who isn't the most defensively responsible, we could say, entertaining guy, but not the most defensively responsible. We could all agree. That was just kind of like a easy picking belt for him. You know what I mean? On a side note, it's kind of a travesty what they've done to Ismael Barroso, in where this guy pretty much got robbed by Tony Weeks. And then in the next fight, he's supposed to be mandatory. And then they're like, nope, we're going to make the Pitbull Cruz fight. And now I'm pretty sure he's still mandatory. The guy's like 42 years old, Like he's never going to get a shot, which really is a shame. But anyways, back to my point. I think they could do that fight at 136-pound catch weight for the 140-pound title. We've seen this in 2015 with Miguel Cotto versus Canelo Alverez. They fought for the 160-pound title, WBC, at 155 pounds, which is only 1 pound higher than the contracted, or 1 pound contracted higher weight than 154. Exactly. So it's not like it's, never been done before. It's been done fairly recently. I like to think 2015 wasn't too long ago, but that was basically 9 years ago.
Yeah, no, but they could do it again.
Yeah,
especially
they could do it again.
For Gervonta Davis. You know what I mean? I think that you hit it on the head with that.
Yeah. It doesn't really make sense that they would fight for Tank's belt.
Yeah, no,
fight for the other one. Give Tank that other strap. He can go parade it around, and he'll actually win the actual WBA super duper title. It's called the WBA super title. Now it's just a normal one because there isn't their regular title. We don't really have to go into that because that's super confusing for all my boxing fans or even MMA fans that are coming into boxing that don't even really know the whole belt situation.
So in the comments here, my guy Kimon King Evans, who's a professional boxer, by the way, says nice. Tank is not. Tank is not. Tank is not knocking out Loma or Stevenson. I agree about the Loma part. 100%. 100%. I agree about the Loma part. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100% I don't know about Stevenson. I think he could catch Stevenson. I think Stevenson's young enough and not nearly as crafty as Loma, but
I
we'll
think
see if
what
that we'll see
I
if
think
Stevenson even makes it to another big fight first.
yeah, I think Evans has a good point there. He might not even be able to catch either of them. You know,
Yeah.
they both have phenomenal footwork. We saw how Tank, and I have a question for you after I make this point. We saw how Tank wasn't really able to catch Frank while he was moving around. And it wasn't like his footwork was just outstanding. It's just that it was smooth.
Yeah.
It was smooth. He was able to punch off of it, and that was able to keep Tank off of him. But a guy like Loma, who has tremendous footwork, a guy like Shakur, who just overuses the footwork, in my
And
opinion.
and defensive he's good. His defense is solid too. He's not
Yeah,
irresponsible in any way.
but for those, he might not be able to get the opportunities to do it. Now, my question to you about what I just brought up with how Frank was able to capitalize on the footwork and the counter punching and being able to punch off of the footwork. And it was really, I mean, we saw Tank's face afterwards. Do you attribute that to, Frank being that good? Or was some of it the fact that Tank had the longest layoff of his career? So maybe he was a little bit rusty.
I think Tank. I think Frank was doing good. I just don't think he had the stamina for it. And some of the damage on Gervonta's face, I don't think everybody's remembered. They clashed heads. They had a headbutt in there, and it hit Gervonta to give him that big bruising area right here underneath his right eye, I believe. But
Yeah.
that was part of the damage. So there was a big headbutt in there. Neither one of them complained about it. They knew they clashed. It wasn't anything, per se, as somebody was mad at the other person. I mean, they both genuinely went in, and it happened, as it does sometimes. I think Frank did a great job with his footwork, getting out, doing those things. I just think he sprinted too much. Like, he used it too far. He went from one side of the ring to the other side of the ring rather than standing his ground and giving some pressure back to Gervonta. He just ultimately let Gervonta keep walking and walking and walking. And eventually, anybody who likes to come forward like that, anybody who does it will eventually find timing, especially if you have big pop, right? If you have huge punching power, I see that being the reason for it. Just too much footwork. You said, Shakur overuses his footwork. I think Frank went too fast, too quickly. Instead of being slick and making smaller movements, smaller turns, and trying to counter shot a little bit, and then ranging out, being in the center, and then working the backwards movement and the footwork a little bit more, rather than just sprinting from one side to the other side in such a manner that, yeah, you're making a miss, you're getting out of the way, but you just gave up the middle of the ring, so where he can just start getting you to the ropes quicker, rather than turning, getting to the middle, pressing a little bit, getting him to back up, and then giving all that room for you to work. You know what I mean? I think that
Most
could have helped a
definitely.
little bit, but I see a Loma and Gervonta Davis fight going down kind of like a Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder. Like,
Okay.
much more skillful on the Gervonta side, which we would consider him the Wilder, much more skillful on that side than Deontay was. But I see that craftiness. Gervonta knocks Loma down one time, kind of like a Jorge did. But he knows, then he figured out how to pour it on to him, kind of like Tyson did with Wilder at the end of those fights, and realized that I think it kind of goes down to a fight like that. One's going to have to be really, really solid and perfect, and make sure if he does get caught, it's something he can come back from. And, Gervonta is going to try to have to find that one punch button, because I don't think he's going to be able to keep up with the boxing and
And the
movement
activity.
of a Loma like that. He's going to have to be on his P's and Q's to find that. You know what I mean? That's how I see, some of that going down. I think it'd be much more difficult for him to catch Loma than it would be Stevenson. I think you'll get Stevenson to keep his feet still longer and keep that movement, like get him to freeze a little bit more than you would Loma in those scenarios. So,
I'll let you read this one.
all right. So it says Loma and Stevenson are the same. What separates Stevenson from Loma? Loma gets hit more than Stevenson. Stevenson against larger, taller fighters in boxing. Stevenson, the only boxer in boxing that gets hit less than any boxer. It was Loma and Boot Stevenson now is the first. Okay. So he's saying Loma is the second, Boots is number 2, Jerome Businas gets hits number 3, and then Shakur Stevens is number 1. I get what he's saying there, and like that's Kimon King Evans again. So I appreciate you chiming in, brother. Thank you. I get what you're saying, brother, but I just think Stevenson at his younger age, at the Tank would be able to hunt him down a little bit. I think just the sheer mental fortitude of it. Loma's been doing this for too long. I don't think Loma's going to break his game plan and his movement and how he does it. It's kind of like playing the symphony to him in the orchestra. It flows. It just goes that way. And Stevenson is unbelievably ultra talented. Obviously, I'm a little biased towards Loma, it sounds like, and I understand that the way I talk, but that's just how I view it. I think Stevenson has the better shot of getting caught than Loma does. Both of them extremely difficult with the way they fight, but I like Loma's chances better than Stevenson's chances. But that's just me.
Yeah, and I get what Evans is saying, most definitely, but for one, I don't think they're really the same. I don't know, what the comparison is of them being the same, but I feel like let's say we're talking about the footwork. Okay, Stevenson does have decent footwork, solid footwork. He's able to retreat very quickly. He's able to move laterally well, but I feel like Loma is just the way he can cut angles and whatnot is a lot better than Stevenson. And the reason why Loma gets hit more is because he engages more. Stevenson he doesn't get hit, but he also doesn't engage. So there's that as well. So, I mean, we look at his last fight. You know what they say, you're only as good as your last fight. His last fight was historically the least amount of punches thrown ever in a 12-round championship fight. So, like I mentioned on the last podcast, Stevenson definitely has to win back the fans in his next performance. Because if you remember, we're talking about Frank Martin here, right? Stevenson was a guy who was going to fight Frank Martin, but then Stevenson said, oh, no, I want 75-25. And Frank Martin said, no, I don't want 25. You're not worth 75, whatever the conversation went down. Essentially, that's what I understand happened. Maybe I'm wrong. Then what also happened right before that, before they even started talking about that fight, was Stevenson was supposed to fight Haney for undisputed. Haney was going to fight one more fight at 135. And then going in to those negotiations, they said, hey, I have all the titles here. I have everything. You're just coming into the division. We're doing 75-25 for you. And Stevenson said, no, that's not good. And he essentially priced himself out of that fight. If we even go further back, Haney, in order to win those titles, he had to take what people were calling short money because it was less than what he was previously getting, which there's a debate on whether he was overpaid, whatever. But it was less than what he was getting paid. He had to fly to Australia twice. He had to, fight Loma in order to win all the titles and then be able to get those paydays that he wants. So now when he's finally in a position to get the paydays that he wants because he took the, quote, short money, now you got this guy Shakur who hasn't done anything in the division, really only has hype behind him. Just people hyping him up. Mm-hmm. 2-division champion, granted, but he's not a big draw. There's nothing that can point. There's no evidence that would point that he's a major draw.
Yes.
So 75-25, he priced himself out of that fight. I bring all this up to say that I've never seen somebody in one breath go from pricing themselves out of a big fight to then in the very next day or whatever, going into a fight, your very next fight, and showing everyone why you have absolutely zero status in the market. People were falling asleep during his fight. And I know I sound critical, but that's the thing that, people need to be critical of this because this is what's going to happen. If his next fight coming up reflects his last one, you could say goodbye to his career. He will price himself out of every big fight that he ever has the opportunity to fight. Nobody's ever going to want to fight him. And that's it. Because that's the thing, same thing too. Poor Edwin De Los Santos, people were hating on him too. But we've seen Edwin De Los Santos fight. Yeah. He goes in there and he scraps. He's a great fighter. He's an exciting guy. But if he has the right opponent. So That's what I'm saying. It's definitely going to, you know, play with it. But your boy Evan says his hand was hurt going into that fight, remember. So hopefully that's the reason why that fight went the way it went.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, he has the opportunity, and I'm still willing to give him the opportunity, right? I'm not writing him off. I'm willing to give him the opportunity on July 6th to come and earn the fans' support back.
He needs a finish though. Like he needs a finish. He needs to beat somebody up and get a finish. I get what he's saying. He's saying, Kemon Evans again. He's saying, but his name is among the top four in there, and they're scared to take this fight because of the fight styles. And style makes fight. His style does make any fight risky because of his defensive tactics and the way he does, and he likes body work. He counters to the body extremely well. I don't think people understand how well he catches people in those exchanges to the body rather than to the head when he's playing the game. But again, if he's pricing himself out of fights and he's doing that, there's got to be some type of risky scarediness on his side, because you don't price yourself out of something. If you can fight for 10 million less, one fight, just one fight, right? And you go out and you do something spectacular against a top guy, now you can ask for whatever you want. Now it's like, okay, no. I already took the low side. I beat your dude. I'm the A side. I'm the one that now this is what I'm asking for. Let me get the money that I asked for now. Now it is 75-25 or 60-40 or 70-30, however you want to line it up. But if he's not willing to bite the bullet one time to do that, you know what I mean? It's, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? What are you doing in boxing? Like, you're not going to get that payday until you give something. You know,
I got an example for you.
Huh?
So I got an example for you for all of our Fight Bananas MMA fans out there. We saw what happened when Jorge Masvidal threw one flying knee. In 5 seconds, this guy's whole entire career changed. Now, you could say he was already on an upward trajectory after he knocked out Darren Till. Fair. But after that, I mean, you know what I'm saying? He ends up fighting Nate Diaz, who...
For a whole new title. For a whole new title.
They made up a whole new title for him. And then from there, I mean, was like, what, 3 losses in a row, but still main event. The guy is his whole stock rose. And now he's going to be rematching Nate Diaz in boxing. And I'm watching it. I'm going to be invested in it. And we'll be talking about that as well. Yes. But to reel it back in, the main thing of what we're talking about is, okay, who is Tank going to fight next, right? And we're talking, really, it breaks down to, we got this side of the street, PBC, this side of the street, Top Rank. The fight to make next that makes the most sense, and I think what the fans want to see, is Tank versus Loma. But it has to come together. Now, there's a lot of money that's been moving into boxing recently, so I'm a little more optimistic of it if Saudi Arabia gets involved. If His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh fronts the bill, I don't think Bob Arum or Al Heyman are going to have a problem with it.
Nope.
But if not, Tank still has, the card in his back pocket in the catch weight 140-pound title, maybe at 136, Pitbull Cruz rematch that I'm down to see. It's not like some of the other fights where it was like, all right, we'll take this fight. It's not really the fight we want, but we'll take it. No, I'm still down to see that fight. I want to see that fight.
That was a close fight. That was close.
That was the closest fight he's had.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm down to see that fight for sure. And then, we see Loma down the line. In the meantime, if that does happen, who does Loma fight? It would make the most sense for unification. Do you fight him against Baranchyk or do you fight him against Shakur? I think versus Baranchyk would make the most sense. And if Loma and Tank end up fighting, then you do Baranchyk versus Shakur, unify those 2 titles.
Yeah.
And then, you set up a 2 title for the winner, have them face against each other. Now we're talking that true tournament that you had mentioned previously.
You just split the matchups, which probably makes more sense. You know what I mean? Like, as far as that goes, because I could see Loma being the easier one to work with than Shakur to get the fight with Tank. I could see it being way easier for them to make the Burchall Stevenson fight than the other. You know what I mean? So that
for sure. Sense. Yeah. Evan says 75-25. I would have said no too. And only reason I would have is because it was already bad blood coming into it. So yeah, I would have felt played. I can't argue if they would have said 60-40, but the man has his reason on saying no.
That
If
was
you're
Frank that
talking,
said no. That was Frank that said no, though,
no,
not Shakira.
I think he might be referring to Shakur, because there was two 75-25 situations
Okay.
with I don't know actually. Kimon, are you talking about Frank and Shakur? Or are you talking about Shakur and Haney? With Shakur and Haney, the 75-25 I felt was valid. Haney did his thing. He went and he got undisputed. He fought Loma like he was supposed to. He took the quote short money. I give Haney the credit on that for
Yeah.
sure. Shakur, if you want a shot at undisputed without having to go out and collect all the titles on your own, they're right there sitting for you in one fight. Take the 25. If you're so good, take the 25, win the fight, take the quote short money that you think, win the fight, and then go.
Yeah, he said Haney and
He's talking
Stevenson.
about Haney and Stevenson. Yeah. So
I agree, though, man. He should have took on that gamble. You got to take it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you got to go ahead and take that for that. If you think you can beat the guy, go take the short money and charge as much as you want after that. You got all the undisputed titles. You're the guy. You're the man now. Go charge what you want. I mean,
yeah. And the thing is I don't even know if it would have been short money, because he probably would have still got paid more than he did in any of these other fights that he's taken against. Who? Tell me who he's fighting next. Who's the next opponent he's fighting?
Yeah. I think this comes down to, like, it's kind of like when Mayweather knew that he was the short side on De La Hoya, took the short money, and then once he won that, he's like, no, I'm A side. I'm the pretty boy. Or I'm Money Mayweather now. Everything I do, I've already did that. That's what I did before. And I think that was the fight, right? Was it the Oscar De La Hoya fight that all of a sudden he decided I'm the A side after that?
Yeah, he went to a metapod state and in the cocoon and evolved into the Butterfree of Money Mayweather from his previous Pretty Boy Floyd.
Yeah. So it was one of those things. I feel like you got to do that at some point in your career. You know who you are. At some point, take the small, become the cocoon and butter, and then flourish into the butterfly that you are and rule the land. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And Kemon Evans says what y'all are saying, 1000% agree. The dude Frank Martin almost lost to. You right. That is exactly. So we appreciate it for that. Tank. Yeah. Tank. Let's see who he fights next, man. It could be Loma. It could be Isaac Cruz. I think they're eyeing November for Loma, which would make sense because they already have a October card, which is Beterbiev versus Bivol. And this is what I'm saying. They as in Saudi, because I feel like Saudi's going to have to get involved for this fight.
Yeah.
And I would like Saudi to get involved for this fight, because if Saudi gets involved for this fight, all this talk that they're talking about a boxing league and everything like that, they need to be able to throw awesome fights with awesome cards in boxing monthly.
Yeah.
Like they do with UFC.
Yep.
Dana White had he talks about boxing all the time. It's like a going out of business sale. Every time they throw some stuff together and they're like, buy this fight. But then there's like nothing ever, you know what I mean? You never know what's going on, stuff like that. And I get his point. So with this, if they build that league, whatever they do, bring all these promotions together, possibly buy out Ring Magazine, like we were talking about before, make that the true championship. Now you can actually have official rankings. Still, you can keep the other belts involved and whatnot, and they can still be considered world champions, but you're not the top guy unless you have that Ring Magazine title and you fight under that promotion. And then from there, throw fights, create big cards, throw fights monthly. And if they do that, which I'm hoping they do soon, we got October, we got August. I don't know that there's anything in September, but we do know that Canelo will be fighting in September. So that's always his date. We'll see. So that leaves November wide open. I think that's the fight that could go down.
I do have a question for you, though. Now, it's been put out there a while. What who do you think is now the face of boxing after this amazing win?
That might mess boxing up. The Ring Magazine title. Come on now. The reason why we say the Ring Magazine title is because that is the only one out of all the titles that actually has a somewhat fair, right? You know, you can make arguments on it or whatnot, but it actually ranks all the fighters and whatnot. It's the classic belt. Right now, it's kind of in the hands of maybe some people who aren't favored the best in boxing. But if you put it into hands of some people that we trust, like the Saudis, do we trust the Saudis? I don't know. They're making the good fights for us. And where everyone else is blinded by money, they don't care about money because they're swimming in it.
Yeah.
So
Scrooge McDuck style.
yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens with that. But go ahead with your question. You said, who do I think is the face of boxing?
Yeah, because this knockout's great. The build up to this fight was great. You had David Benavidez on the card. Yeah, a lot of people would say Canelo is the face of boxing at some point, but some people, the casuals, might say Jake Paul is because that's who they know more than anybody, right? But who do you now think is the face of boxing worldwide and the face of boxing in America?
Boxing in America. I mean, for boxing in America, it's probably got to be Tank, because he's like the top American champion as far as I look at the numbers, man.
Yeah.
Who's selling the tickets? Who's selling the pay-per-views? I'm really interested to see what the pay-per-view numbers come back at on this fight. And we have to compare that into kind of the only other people, right? We have Canelo Alvarez. You can talk about maybe like Usyk or something. I don't know that he has the star power to say that he's the face of boxing. But, as far as boxers, it could be Usyk. After Terrence Crawford fights, maybe it's Terrence Crawford. But it's just, I think it comes down to the numbers. Who's selling the most? Because you have to have that mix of hardcore fans and the casual fans to actually sell pay-per-view tickets.
Yeah.
And or pay-per-view buys. And since Canelo hasn't really been fighting those top guys lately, those numbers have been declining. I think his fight with Munguia only did like 500,000, which is still pretty good, but it's not breaking that 900, that 700. And Evans back at it. Canelo's still the face, but Tank will take it soon if Canelo lose again. I want to see what the Tank numbers come back at and compare that to Canelo's last fight, because if Tank's numbers on the pay-per-view sales, because if you look at this last fight with Tank and this last fight with Canelo, you can say that both of them were the reasons why they sold. The fight didn't sell because of Frank Martin. The fight didn't sell because of Jaime Munguia.
No, but David Benavidez was on this card to help that.
It did prop it up a little bit. You know what I mean? I don't know that on the Canelo card, Amanda Stanionis helped the pay-per-view that much. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely want to see. That's a good point, so it does inflate the numbers a little bit on that one. But we'll see. If those numbers are higher, it's going to say Canelo sold more. Are the numbers out for the Tank versus Frank pay-per-view yet?
I don't know if they are or not, but to me, the David Benavidez really did help a lot, and I think they're going to outsell it. I think we're if we can get the numbers, I think sorry, Kimon, I think you're going to be wrong. I think this pay-per-view did it. I'm going to quote RL Presidente, Mr. David Van Auken, who was out there this past weekend getting mad content, mad videos to help us out and help Fight Bananas out. It was awesome. But he said it was still, for all the big events that he's ever been to, for all the big things he's ever seen, he goes, how do I want to say it? Star power was out there. All the NBA players that love boxing were out there, right? I see what he's saying. I don't know if I agree with that. Like, we're gonna have to really see the numbers. I don't.
So I got something for us right here.
You found something?
I don't know how much credibility I want to give this. Right? I mean, let me go ahead and share this article. So we have, after disappointing pay-per-view buys versus Frank Martin, Insider says Gervonta Davis desperately needs to fight a boxing legend. So this has come from Rick Glasser.
Who's Rick Glasser? Do we know him?
I forget what his official title is, but he has definitely been like a PBC hater. Okay. Right. So I don't know how much of this comes from a place, like, he definitely does have inside sources, but also I'm a little bit skeptical because he's he is a hater of them. Right. But he's alleging that Gervonta Davis and Frank Martin did less than 200K pay-per-view. So if it did do less, when in the past Gervonta's done 200K on his own, and then on top of that, you're coming off of your biggest pay-per-view ever with Ryan Garcia at like 1.3 million. And then on top of that, on the co-main event, you have David Benavidez who sold his own pay-per-views. That wouldn't be good.
It's tough. I wonder. Yeah.
Yeah, Evan says the Tank and Garcia numbers. Yeah, but the Martin fight didn't even do close to Canelo fight. Yeah, that's the thing with Tank and Garcia. Everyone was like, "Oh, Tank's the face of boxing." After this, it's because he had the dance partner, and that's
Yeah.
why he was able to sell so many tickets. Is because
Yeah.
took so many pay-per-views because he had the dance partner. But in his other pay-per-views, he's not selling that much. We're talking about potential fights and whatnot. I think one of the fights we're not talking about is Ryan Garcia. What are the odds that they could do a rematch?
He wanted a rematch. He came up to the ring. You saw him wearing the shirt. Tank's number one fan. And said, "Fight me,
Rematch
bitch."
me.
Yeah, or rematch me, bitch. All right. So that was really cool that they did that little moment, had that little thing. He said he'd fight him again. He said if the numbers were there, he'd fight him again. He's like, "I'll beat his ass again." It's one of those things.
The issue is I just don't know that it's going to happen. We've talked about the fact that when the fight first happened, we were talking about all the terms that were placed. And the reason why not only did it have a catch weight, but it had a rehydration clause as well. And if anybody wants to argue, oh, that didn't play into the fight, well, we could debunk that in just a minute. But with the rematch, or for that first fight, before we even talk about a rematch, we talked about, okay, if Ryan Garcia didn't agree to those terms, would the fight have happened? And a lot of people say no. Tank wouldn't have taken the fight. So why would he take a rematch now on different terms? Would he fight him at 145? He said he would fight Keith Thurman at 145. So I don't know, but I will share this. Let me share this. Anybody who thinks that rematch clause and weight draining in terms didn't have any part to play into that fight.
Oh yeah,
Look at
it's two different looks completely.
this is two different people, bro.
Yeah, definitely two different people.
This is a skin and bones. Look at this, bro.
Yeah.
He was talking about how
That's
even one
why
of his
that's why the body shot hurt him in the Tank fight, and that's why those slamming punches into the side against Haney didn't bother him, because look how much thicker he is. Look how much more meat on his bone that he has. Yeah, that's definitely it. Definitely plays a factor, man. I don't care what anybody says. It definitely plays a factor, 100%.
Most definitely. So, we'll see what happens. I don't know that he takes a rematch with Ryan without the terms. Can he win the rematch with Ryan without the terms? I think so. I think he's a much more talented boxer and a much more skilled boxer. I just don't like the fact that he's putting these terms on people. But I
Those
could talk
terms
about
ain't,
it until I'm blue in the face.
as long as they keep signing, those terms ain't stopping
They're
until
not
he
going
stops
away.
making until he stops making money by that way. They're not going away. So
Yeah, exactly. But that being said, too risky for Tank. I
that's
agree.
why he puts those in there, because there's risk involved, and he wants the most minimal risk he can have, which it's the fight game. If you get somebody to sign that contract, I can't argue with you. I mean, you got him to sign it, so it is what it is.
Yeah, but the thing is I feel like Tank is so skilled and he's such a great fighter that when he puts these things, like even I was talking about with the Frank Martin fight. Frank Martin looked good until all of a sudden he didn't.
Yep.
And was it that rehydration clause? Just all of a sudden he can't move anymore. He goes from being able to move nicely to just stuck on the ropes. How much did that play a factor into it? People can try to argue, oh, that didn't play a factor at all. But the thing is,
He learned from the best, bro. We all know it. He learned from the best. It is what
yeah,
it is.
exactly. So I don't know, man. We'll see what happens. But speaking of David Benavidez, speaking of Canelo, I got something I want to show real quick. Another little story I saw, and I actually heard him say this, right? I might have referenced it before.
I got a question for you after this too. I want to see what you say.
Okay. Let's see. 1 second.
Yep.
Oh, whoops, wrong one. That was the last one. That was the last one. Here we go. I got you right here.
All right,
ladies and gentlemen.
Let's see it.
So David Benavidez on Canelo Alverez. This guy is charging so much for his pay-per-views. It's like he's spitting in your guys' faces. He's saying he doesn't give a F what you guys want. He's not going to give you the best fights. If you hold all the titles, you've got to give the best in the division. You've got to fight the best in the division. I'm number 1, and number 2 is David Morrell. He's not fighting me. He's not fighting David Morrell. How long is he going to call himself champion if he doesn't fight number 1 or number 2? He's disrespecting you guys. If you guys are cool with that, then there's nothing I can say about it. And I had brought this up on one of the other episodes. I even brought this up in regards to Tank as well, because I was saying, with Tank, one of the criticisms I had before was you had these guys who they were saying like, oh, this is like the new 4 kings at lightweight. Tank's one of them, but isn't even trying to fight any of them. And he was the only one fighting on pay-per-view and is charging everybody for fights you don't want to see. Now we're seeing that, but out of Canelo Alvarez. He became undisputed. Okay, then he fights Triple G3, which even people didn't really want to see that either, because the fact that we knew Triple G's old now, and that fight went pretty much exactly how we thought it was going to go.
And he won the first one, so I didn't even need to see that.
So that went the way it went. Then he fought Bivol, tried to go up to 175. That didn't work out for him. Comes back down, fights. Who else did he fight after that? He fought John Ryder. He fought. There was somebody else that he fought after that as well. Well, no. This was after he became undisputed.
Oh, okay. Oh, after Caleb.
Yeah. Who did he fight after he fought Bivol?
Shit. I don't know. Nobody rememberable. Let's put it that way.
Oh, no. I think it was Triple G. Okay, so no. That's what it was. I got it mixed up.
He fought Triple G after Bivol? No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
What?
He fought Caleb Plant. Then his next fight, he fought Bivol and lost. And then he fought Triple G. Then he fought John Ryder. Then he fought Jermell Charlo. Then he fought Jaime Munguia just now. So Evan says Canelo's doing the same thing. Mayweather is no different than what Tank is doing now. So, and he better not go up to 175. He needs to stay at 178. I agree. I don't think Canelo needs to be going up to 175 unless he's going to put a significant effort into his cardio and, just kind of go in there with an actual game plan and not just try to throw power punches. I don't know that, he needs to do anything at 175, but it would make for a big fight. I think right now, based off of that story I just shared with David Benavidez, I'll give my point and I want to hear your thoughts if you agree or not. I think what Canelo may be doing is he's trying to milk this for as much as he can. He had the like the villain, the what's the word I'm looking for? Like that adversary in Mayweather, which made a big fight.
Yeah.
Then after that, he had the big fight with Cotto, but he wasn't really an adversary. But then it was Triple G. And then that fight was really milked out. Then from there, he kind of did his own thing, was fighting a bunch of, big fights and whatnot. But he hasn't really had an adversary since Floyd Mayweather and since Triple G. Now David Benavidez is becoming that guy. We can't just have Canelo Alvarez sit back and, beat everybody, even though he didn't win against Bivol. We just can't have him sit here and fight all these guys that we don't really care about. We need that adversary to make a huge fight, to make people talk about it. So do we think that he's creating that adversary, letting this fight marinate? One, do we think that him asking for 200 million is his way to, okay, if I ask up here and I land here, I'm still getting over 100 million, 150. 2, and 3. Now that I'm letting David Benavidez go up to 175 and get comfortable, when he comes back down to 170 or 168, is it going to play more into my favor? Out of those points, what do you agree with, disagree with? Any extra you want to throw and sprinkle on top?
No, so in my opinion, the biggest fight out there, period, end, is David Benavidez, Canelo Alvarez. That's the biggest fight to make.
Absolutely.
100% biggest fight, right? It's the passing of the torch per se in the Mexican, in Mexican boxing. It's the two biggest name what in that weight category. One of the biggest names, period, end in boxing at all, and another guy who's building his name to that category as well. I think he's doing that, and Keemon Evans agrees with you that he's trying to milk it. I think he's trying to milk it the same exact way that you're saying it. And I think Benavidez is going about it the right way by not staying inactive, waiting for it, but by going up, showing that, hey, I can go up to 175 like you did, but I'm successful. I won my matchup here, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. And it's just making more of that, like you said, a rivalry. I'm doing something better than you did. Ha ha. I got a title up here. You didn't. Whatever. However you want to look at it, however you want to go about it. I do think that's what's happening. I think that's the biggest fight in boxing. And neither one of these guys are dumb. Neither one of these, Canelo's been in the business way too long. He learned a lot from Mayweather from fighting him. I guarantee you his camp and everything else learned all of the strategy that they were doing as far as promoting what they were trying to do, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that he learned from just fighting Mayweather and seeing it over the years. I think you hit it, nail, hammer, bang, hit it right on the head. That's what's happening. And if it doesn't go down this way, then he was just pricing himself out. That's the only way this works.
Yeah, for sure. Because there is that argument that, he's just pricing himself out, blah, 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 which could be fair to say. And it is fair to say if it never happens.
Not when you have oil money.
Well, when that oil money comes in, yeah.
But I think that's how it works. I think he prices $200 million. Sheik goes, oh, okay,
I really want to see this fight.
Yeah, I really want to see it. I'm a big boxing fan. I want to see this. I'm going to make this happen. I'll pay $200 for the whole thing. You'll get $150. He'll get $50, or he'll get $125. He'll get $75. But I think it'll be somewhere around that range. And he's like, I'll pay this for that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then they make it happen. So I think that's how it goes down. Like I said, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you've had that kind of insight for a minute now about this, and I think you're reading it exactly right. And if it doesn't go the way you're saying it, he priced himself out on purpose. I don't see it any other way. I don't see it any other way.
I mean, I can't sit here, even as like a Canelo fan. I've been a Canelo fan for forever, but that doesn't blind me from seeing what's in front of our eyes. A lot of the times people will say, because they're fans of this fighter or that fighter, I'll bring up the criticisms of fighters because I think they're fair criticisms. I'm not trying to hate on the fighters or whatnot. I still give them their due. But when there's certain criticisms that need to be brought up, that they need to be addressed. And sometimes people just kind of, nope, this guy's perfect. He can't do anything. So let's see what Keemon's chiming in with. They said they're going to end up giving him 200 mil because it will be a rematch, and that's when David will make his money. Yeah, I saw that's what David said. He said, I don't even care to make money in the first one. We'll set it up so that I'll fight him, I'll beat him, we'll rematch, then I'll make the lion's share of that one, which I think is fair. Yeah. But even then, I don't know if we saw what happened with Canelo and Bivol. They were talking about even redoing that rematch, and Canelo was trying to offer him the same terms, and Bivol said, what are you talking about? I won the fight. So I don't know what's going on with that. We'll see.
I think that was there because I think Canelo, because he still had belts in another category, thought he could pull that. If he fights David, he doesn't have the belts anymore.
Yeah.
All those belts go to David at 168 because the fight's going to be at 168. It's not going to be at 175. It's going to be at 168.
Yeah, it has to be at one. Yeah, so it would make no sense at 175.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I don't think that'll happen. So if he gets all the belts at 168, he has no room to offer him the same terms.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't getting none of the belts back, homie. I got them all. So if you don't take it, then we ain't doing it. So there's no way. I don't think that happens that way. So
But I do
I
have
think
some
David's
Canelo
like,
news
yeah.
as
But
of
also
today.
to prove the point, what is David doing? What we just talked about with Shakur Stevenson. David said he'll take the short end because he'll make it on the back end. Right? That's the
Yeah.
way you do it.
That's the mindset you got to have, not sit here. And the thing is that David actually has like the marketability.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
already sold pay-per-views. He's been on 2 pay-per-views that he's headlined so far. You know what I mean? So, there we go. But I do have some Canelo news. So
Okay,
before
let's see it.
we had heard that in order to maintain his IBF title, he was going to have to fight a man named William Skull.
I
And
don't know who that is.
exactly, not very many people do. And I can't lie, I didn't know beforehand either.
I
So
don't believe you. I bet you knew who he was. You knew who he was. Don't lie.
I didn't know who he was. I know that he fought this guy. This is his last win. The guy, Sean Helpfield. I'm pretty sure he's out of Philly. One of my buddies fought him, and he took the
What's his
fight.
record?
What, Hempfield?
Yeah.
16-1. So I think he was 16-1 going into the fight. Yeah, he's 16-1 going into the fight. And when my buddy fought him, he fought him on like, a week, 2 weeks notice, something like that. Maybe even less. And when I saw him fight him, I was like, bro, I think that's a fight you could have won. So
Yeah.
that being said, William Skull with a win over this guy is getting a shot at Canelo, I guess just because of the IBF and
But
whatnot.
look at this. Look at this guy's fought. He fought a guy 2 fights before that. He fought a guy 26-25 and
And an
23
8-rounder,
and
and then a 6-rounder, and then an 8-rounder. His last fight was an 8-rounder, and somehow he's getting a chance at this is what I'm saying about like the belt organizations and where the IBF is. At least the thing is, at least IBF holds their rules, but I don't like the fact that they hold their rules because their rules are so ridiculous. It's just absolutely insane the stuff they do. Canelo now I believe when he was fighting for Undisputed and he fought Caleb Plant, not only was because Caleb Plant was on PBC that fight was saved for last, but I believe also because it was that he had the IBF title, because the IBF title is what gets in the way. I believe that Canelo Alvarez would have been undisputed and would have fought Demetrius Andrade at 160 had the IBF not gotten in the way. When he beat Danny Jacobs, like 2 days later, they would go, "Oh, you have to fight Sergey Derevianchenko by August, or else we're going to strip your title that you just won and give it basically to Sergey Derevianchenko to fight." Sergey Derevianchenko was just coming off of a loss. So where does this even make sense that you get the idea to mandate that fight? And on such short notice, it's ridiculous. So that's where the IBF is just, they've lost their mind. They're saying, so, I mean, in order for Canelo to remain undisputed, he has to fight this guy who just fought an 8-rounder and a 6-rounder against a guy who was 25 and, 26 and 25. I'm sure is, a warrior of a fighter, but we're talking about Canelo Alvarez here.
Yeah.
And now look at this. As of today,
Agreed.
Canelo Alvarez, William Skull fight agreed. According to multiple tweets from those in the know, Canelo Alvarez, William Skull have agreed to terms to fight later this year. Reports the news earlier today. Fans that recall the fight between Skull, who is Canelo's IBF mandatory challenger, and the Mexican star was initially said to go to purse bids. Some people felt Canelo would choose to vacate the IBF rather than fight Skull, who is unbeaten but hardly a big name. Yet now Skull's promoter, whatever his name is, has said the fight has been agreed upon but will be officially announced in due course. We are happy that we are able to get this over the line.
Okay.
So they're talking about who is Skull, but they said later this year.
Okay, so scroll down. No, bring that back up for a second. I have a funny point that I want to see. Bring that back up,
right,
if you can. Now, in the right-hand corner of it, right, when we look at it, it shows you, scroll up to the top, it shows you Teofimo Lopez. I'm not trying to be rude. You don't have to click on it. I don't know who Steve Claggett is, if that's the way you pronounce it.
Mm-hmm.
Nor do I really want Teofimo to fight that. I don't, whatever. And Shakur Stevenson, is that Artem Lebov? Who is that?
Lobov? No, not Artem Lobov. It
Are you
was the
sure it's not? It's
I
not the goat. It's not the
it,
goat.
it's not the goats. I
Okay,
mean, shout out to the goat. I went to his fight when he beat Paulie
I
Malignaggi.
was there too. So hey, that's
Yeah,
awesome, right?
yeah.
But you do like all these fights on here. Joe Joyce versus Derek Charoso. I'm okay with that. Terrence Crawford versus Israel Madrimov. That's a
Great
good
fight.
fight.
Yeah.
That's the one when people know. But the top two people we just talked about. Who are these people they fighting? Teofimo Lopez versus
Artem
yeah.
is Keemon Evans brought it up earlier. He's the guy who Frank
Frank
Martin
almost
beat.
lost to.
So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things in boxing where, I guess this is what we're gonna see. My question is, the last time they pushed a mandatory like this on him, where it was a mandatory that didn't really make sense. Before his other mandatory was John Ryder. John Ryder at least was coming off of a big win. And you could sell it as a fight. Even though it wasn't the best fight, you could sell it as a fight. His other mandatory was right after he won the WBC vacant title. They said you have to fight Yildirim, Avni Yildirim, in order to keep it. But everyone was like, who wants to see this fight? Nobody wants to see this fight. It's a similar situation as the William Skull fight. So what did Canelo do? He usually fights in May and he usually fights in September. He created a new date. He still fought in May and still fought in September, but he also fought in February because he said, I'm going to get this mandatory out of the way. I'm going to go sell out the Hard Rock in Miami, the stadium. And he went and fought at a stadium in Miami to go fight to get this mandatory out of the way in February.
Yeah.
I wonder, does Canelo fight William Skull on Mexican Independence Day weekend, which is like the big fight weekend that he usually does? Or does he make an extra day and say, listen, we're going to fight, but we're going to fight in like December? Because he also made an extra day when he fought back in 2018. I want to say it was, he fought Rocky Fielding. He fought in a December, which was a little bit different as well. So
who do you think you would fight on Mexican Independence Day if he moved that fight to?
So he's not fighting no more. They agreed to step aside so Canelo could fight somebody else.
So
they paid him. So you're saying that they paid him step aside money is the terms they agreed, because on here they're saying that a fight has been agreed.
Well, maybe you're right. Maybe they're creating another date, and it's just that's why they said in due time. So maybe they paid him a little bit of money to step aside for a while, and then in due time they're going to create that other date to be agreed upon. You know what I mean? Maybe that could be it. So on Mexican Independence Day, who would he fight?
That's a great question. I don't know who's out there to fight besides David Benavidez. I mean, who's in the mix? You had, to David Benavidez's point, you have number one, who's him, number two, who's Morrell, but Morrell's fighting August 3rd, and I think he's fighting at 175 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, the Crawford fight probably isn't going to happen, and I don't know that I even want that fight to ever happen. They were floating around Jermall Charlo, but that's going to be terrible. I think they should never, ever even discuss that out loud, say that fight out loud.
Agreed.
He was the one going for that fight. When Jermall didn't deserve the fight, he let his brother, who's in the smaller weight class, take the fight for him. And then Jermell did absolutely nothing with the opportunity. That was not a performance of, hey, I'm going to try to win this fight.
Oh, no. He was trying to make it through.
Yeah. That at no point was he like, I'm in this to win this fight, which is terrible. But so the Charlos are out.
I think it has to be. I mean, we're hoping maybe with this fight, maybe he's like, all right, you beat it. You went up there. You sold it a little bit more. Maybe they're thinking, they can make this David thing happen, or they want to make it happen, and that'll be that. And then, if they win, they set up the other guy later on.
They haven't decided yet, but Benavidez is the number one spot.
I'm hoping.
I think that Benavidez is the number one spot, but like we were saying before, I feel like they really want to get that Saudi money into it. Are they going to be able to get that figured out by September? I mean, there's still plenty of time. We got 3 months. until then. But one name that we had talked about before, but we're not bringing up right now, is this fight that Matchroom is trying to sell us. They're trying to sell us Mexico versus Puerto Rico. Edgar Berlanga, the
If he
killer.
goes for that, no way, no way.
I would
No.
rather him fight William Skull.
Yeah, and just get that out of the way so we can move on, right?
Yeah, let's do that instead. But I feel like even if he fights, Kimon,
Right? Right? But
with
hey,
that,
straight up, Kimon, I need to know who you're getting all this information from, my dog. Like, we got to talk a little bit more about your
he's in.
info sources.
Kimon's in the loop. Kimon's
He's
in the
in the
loop.
loop.
You
I
know what
know.
I
I
mean?
feel you.
He knows his boxing. So
He does.
my thing is, man, I've said it before, I'll say it again. They're trying to sell everyone, and it's a psyop. I'll say it right here on the live on the pod. It is a psyop. They're trying to sell Berlanga as this guy. They've been trying to sell him as this guy. He's not that guy. They're trying to sell him as a Puerto Rican star. Puerto Rico's not behind him. He doesn't even speak Spanish. He tried to call Canelo out in Orlando. Were you there at that fight?
No.
I was there at that fight. He tried to call out Canelo in Spanish, butchered it. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
oh.
The guy, they were giving away free tickets, and we're talking about Caribe Royale, bro. It's basically
Yeah.
Kissimmee.
Yeah.
They call it like Puerto Rico #2, and the guy can't even like sell the place out. There's nobody with. There's only like maybe 4 flags, maybe 4 Puerto Rican flags. If you had went for the Amanda Serrano fight, there wasn't a person in there without a flag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
when Puerto Rico gets behind a fighter, they get behind a fighter.
Yeah.
Puerto Rico is not behind Edgar Berlanga. I'm sorry, Eddie Hearn. I think you're a great promoter, and you're doing the best you can with the guy. Top Rank didn't want to do it. They tried. They didn't want to do it. But yeah, they're trying to milk the cow that is Berlanga. A lot of people invested a lot of money into him, and they, I think, essentially want to make that money back.
Because that dude was drinking his sauce too much.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Sure. For sure.
He's going to fly too close to the sun.
Yeah.
As what they say. So yeah, that fight's, that's not a fight that could really happen. Other news, we had Subriel Matias versus Liam Paro. Paro won, surprisingly. We talked about kind of the performance. Real quick, what'd you think about the performance of both? And what is next for Paro? What is next for Matias?
Paro, I'm going to apologize to you, sir. Great job, Mr. Liam Paro. You fought the exact fight you needed to fight. You did everything you were supposed to do. I'm taking nothing away from you. You fought a legitimate killer in there, and a man who retired 5 people in a row on the stool, and you went 12 rounds, and you touched him a lot more than he touched you, and that was one of those things where I thought the performance was, quoting Ray the Business again, he left a lot of meat on the bone, homie. He did exactly what you say they do sometimes. I think he thought he was in a hometown. He was able to win an easy decision, didn't really have to do as much as he thought he needed to.
Probably thought he had a tune-up fight.
Yeah, it was kind of a tune-up fight. The guy didn't go away, and you didn't hit the gas pedal when need be to get to that, I don't want to say it, that quarter mile faster when you needed to. And he didn't do it, and Paro did. So hats off to him. I think, he went into enemy territory per se, and he got the job done. So congratulations, bud. Maybe there's a rematch, maybe there's not. I don't know how that's going to work, but good job. Good job. I was a little bit upset with Subriel Matias's performance. I thought he could have given me a lot more, in my opinion. But it's boxing. It's tough.
Yeah, no. I agree pretty much with everything you said. I thought Paro was coming in. He was like really disrupting what Matias was trying to do. I don't know if Matias even came in with a game plan other than to land big shots. and Paro was just in his face, kind of knocking him off balance, taking that leverage away from him, smothering all his shots. Matias did have some success in there, but Paro was a lot busier and he was doing all the things that I just mentioned. So he was able to get the victory. And it sucks that it happened in Puerto Rico. Before I was saying, man, I'm so upset that I wasn't going to that fight. Now I'm so glad that I didn't go to that fight.
Yeah.
Especially with the Tank fight being on the same night. I think that was definitely one of the deciding factors, I must say. But we'll see what happens.
I want to give a shout out to one of the guys on that card, though. Santiago fought Paro, and Santiago put on a great performance against the Mexican Ferrero or whatever. It was a great fight.
He was the underdog, right? And he won?
He was the underdog. Came in, he won the title. He did what he had to do. He stayed in, switched stances. Jab was popping off. He found it. Poetan Pereira.
He's on the wrong podcast. He said, "Boa noite, Poetan Pereira."
He's the new main event for UFC 303. So thank you for saving it, Poetan. But
he said, "Good night, Poetan Pereira." Dom Doredo, muito obrigado.
But for sure though, man, super happy for that kid Santiago. That was awesome. I can't remember his first name, but that performance was good. So I want to give him a shout out. That was fantastic. He went into his hometown. He was a live dog, and he came on top. Great performance, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, good card for Puerto Rico, good card for Matchroom. But yeah, I'd like to see Matias get a rematch at that, because I think I don't think it was a fair assessment of what we could see out of Matias. Right. So that's one of those things where sometimes it's like, oh, if you get beat, you don't really deserve a rematch. I don't feel like we really saw Matias in that. So I'd like to see a rematch. They might try to make a Jack Catterall fight instead, but we'll see what happens. And then other than that, we saw an upset with Gary Anton Russell in the same weight division. Puello became WBC interim champ. So he might be one of the upcoming mandatories for Devin Haney's title, even though I'm pretty sure Sandor Martin is the official mandatory.
Yeah. I think they're trying to make that fight right now as far as that goes. Sandor Martin and Devin Haney.
Devin Haney. Yeah, I don't dislike that fight. I like Sandor Martin. He comes out of Spain. Shout out España. He is like one of the only ones I know that's really like a top, like world-class level boxer out of Spain. I don't really see any other ones.
There isn't. There are guys in the UFC, Elio Taporia, who swears he's a world-class boxer. They're, both of them train in Spain.
No, for sure. I was just in Alicante recently. A lot of my family lives over there, actually. So I was over there for a couple of days, and we went out to like one of the clubs, and they were playing that song that he like walks out to, and they're like, "Shout out to the champion, Elio Taporia." That was cool. Yeah, that was definitely cool. A lot of people, like everybody, like knew him.
Nice.
He was definitely the talk of the casual crowd.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, other than that, we touched up on a few things today, stuff from over the weekend. I think the big takeaways, is Tank. Tank is him, but I would just like to see fights without the extra I want to see fights won in the ring, not one on the contract beforehand. And I feel like whether he fights Loma or he fights Pitbull Cruz, that's not really going to matter, because I don't think he has to do a rehydration clause with either of those guys. So we could see one of those two fights coming up next. We'll see how that plays out. David Benavidez, we'll see what his next fight is. I don't think his next fight is going to be Canelo or the winner of Bivol versus Beterbiev. I think there will be a fight between that, and then it's going to build up into the event. Like when we saw, like right now, that fight we just saw right there was like Iron Man 2. Then we're going to see Canelo fight whoever else. That's going to be Captain America Winter Soldier. We're going to see
all these
fights play up, and then
Civil War.
We're leading up into an Avengers Infinity War.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought you were going like
level.
Iron Man versus Captain America on me for a second. I was
No,
like,
no,
okay,
no.
I'm
I'm talking
down.
about these events are basically just the movies that we need to see beforehand that are going to lead into the big movie that we all want to see. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So that's what it's gonna be, that cinematic level, and then who knows, maybe it'll even have end game level.
So end game level is this card right here: Canelo Alvarez, David Benavidez, main event. Gervonta Davis, Lomachenko, co-main event.
What, repeat that one more time?
Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez, main event. Gervonta Davis versus Lomachenko, co-main event. There's your end game. Let's go.
That's a 200 to 300 million dollar investment from Saudi Arabia. But
And
that would
that's
be
Scrooge
epic. That would be
McDuck
epic
money.
for November.
Scrooge McDuck money. Just do it. Just do it, bro.
Yeah,
You're
you
swimming
might
through
as
gold.
well.
You're
You might
swimming
as
through gold.
well.
You will make it all back. You will make it all back. Like everybody's buying that. There's not a casual. There's not a non-casual that's not going to buy that.
For sure. Keemon Evans, appreciate you tuning in tonight. Now I'm finna go sip a little wine and watch Bad Boys 4 again.
Hey, not too much, my guy. Not too much.
I appreciate it. But yeah, man, again, make sure you subscribe to the Fight Bananas on YouTube. We might do something a little new. So for the next episodes coming up, I have this idea. I'm going to drop it right here on the pod.
Do it.
If
Let's go.
if you have to make sure you're following our IG Boxing Bananas official, and then subscribe
I'm
to our
looking at it
YouTube
right
channel.
now. You better follow. You look at it right now. I'm
Follow it
looking at it
right
right
now.
now.
Right now. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Screenshot your subscription and you liking this video. Send it to us. Send the screenshot to us in the DMs of our new IG. And if you want to say something on the next show, we'll send you the opportunity to come on and speak your mind. We'll do a little 5-minute slot for you to say whatever you need. You
Heck
know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Keemon, he's gonna be at the gym at 9. So shout out to Keemon.
Why can't you? All right.
But we'll be dropping that on the Box of Bananas official IG as well. So make sure you subscribe to our page. Screenshot that you subscribe, like this video, send us in the screenshot. And if you want to be featured on the show for a nice 5-minute little speak your mind, you can come on the show as well. But until
Absolutely.
next time, John, the professor, you got anything else? Anything else
Hey,
you want
man,
to
I
get?
just want to say thank
Speak
you guys
now.
for always coming in and chatting with us. The more you come on, the more you'll chat, do the things that we're talking about. Tell us what you want, shoot us DMs, any of those things, just like my guy Ray the Business said, the man, the myth, the legend. I love him. Let's keep it rolling, baby.
Absolutely. All right. You know what I'm saying? We'll probably do a show later on in the week. So just stay tuned. Make sure you're following the IG because we just figure out when we're going to do the show when we do the show. We do an early week, we do a late week. Sometimes it's on a Monday, sometimes it's on a Tuesday, sometimes it's on a Thursday, sometimes it's on a Friday. So you got to make sure you're following to get the updates.
Oh,
And
and just so I got one more thing, so everybody knows, we will be having some of the undercard from the Jake Paul Mike Perry fight on this show. I already got 2 locked in, ready to go, coming up soon. So keep a lookout. Keep a lookout. All right.
keep a lookout, ladies and gentlemen. Keep a lookout. Until next time, peace.